Hello, mate. How you getting on?
Hey,
Not too bad. You're looking very fit.
look at that lockdown haircut, Spencer. You've got a much better face than me, but I'm sort of look at that. Look at the state of that thing.
I'm not convinced that's necessarily the case, but there we go. You kind of look at these internet trends and you go, God, what a pack of animals. But then actually, it's really handy, isn't it?
Who did yours, by the way?
What has gone on there? What has gone on?
I just got rid of all of it, mate. Went nice and low.
Who did it? The wife? Did Vogue do it, or did you?
She did the base. It's a little tufty in areas here. Look, it's not perfect. Then again, neither am I. So it's an accurate representation.
Spencer, welcome to Ruck It. It's great to have you on. I mean, we seem to be having real stars on this show. We had Duncan James, so we're getting the best looking blokes that we can find who are willing to talk to us. And the first thing we want to do, though, is we want to sort of apportion you a position in the game of rugby. Nick, I don't know what you think, but I'm kind of thinking, you see, Duncan James looked to me more like an inside centre, but you've got the looks, and I think, I know you've lost a bit of weight and you've changed your life around and you're drinking less, and we'll talk about that more later. But the position, I reckon, Nick, I don't know what you think, maybe outside centre. What do you reckon? Now he's lost a bit of weight and looking cool.
I'll take it.
Yeah, he looks like he's going to improve the acceleration for the outside break. In the outside, he'll complement the built-up figure of Duncan James that we saw earlier today.
There you go.
Did you ever play rugby?
Today.
I know you went to Eton and stuff, and they love their rugby. But were you a rugby guy?
I did play rugby. I certainly wasn't. I had an interesting kind of progression through the rugby teams. So I had the misfortune of going to a French prep school. They were all a bit wet.
Right. Okay.
And we didn't play any kind of rugby there. And then basically ended up at Eton and had never played rugby before, but loved sport, loved sport, loved competing, and started off. And I was substitute prop for the E's in my first year, and then in my second year, I was hooker for the A's. So
wow, brilliant.
Everyone thought that the coach fancied me, but actually I was just naturally skilled to be a hooker. You know,
very apt.
Yeah, no, I leapfrogged all the teams and went in. I loved it. I think it's my favourite sport. I don't play it now, but it's I love watching it, and I just think it's and it's a pleasure, by the way, to be on your guys' podcast. Thank you very much for thinking of me.
No, well, that's good news, because my nephews are at Eton, and one of them's in the B team and not very happy, but should be moving up like you, and the other one's in the A team. So, but from I mean, you've done all sorts. I know you won the jump, and we loved you and made in Chelsea and all the other things you're doing, and great you've turned your life around. But at the moment in lockdown, I'm not really a drinker. I've turned to drink, but you've done the opposite, haven't you? You've done the absolute opposite.
Yeah, my drinking was pretty bad, though, to be honest, mate. So, like, I always had jobs where drinking was very normal. It's not to blame my behaviour on work, but I was a broker in the city, and boozing's pretty normal. Do you know Johnny Barrett? Johnny Barrett, he played for anyway, he's a big rugby guy.
Right.
He'll be able to tell you. It's like, you know, drinking at lunch, really regular. Then I kind of worked in nightclubs for a bit, where obviously there's plenty of drinking going on. And then I went into TV, and it's kind of, you know, you're expected to be this very social, kind of always out. So I always had an excuse to drink. And as a result of that, I always drank to excess. And it's fine when you're young, when you're like early 20s, you know, you can batter yourself and be fine the next day.
Yeah.
And it kind of catches up with you. And then when your priorities shift and you become a more responsible adult, you can handle the excessive drinking worse, you know? And I just began, I noticed a real lazy streak in me, and I was just really, I wasn't the person that I kind of wanted to be, and I was impending, and fatherhood was knocking on the door. My wife was getting a bit bored of my kind of, you know, constant excuses to always be drinking. And, there was a wake up moment for me where I just thought, actually, we'll knock it on the head. And then when I did knock it on the head, there was very little in the way of, alternatives or replacements, and thought, you know, might as well make a business out of this, and we're doing all right.
Which is great. Just remind us of that. So you see, the thing is, my father-in-law does drink low alcoholic beer, and I guess when I drink it, I kind of feel like, well, what's the point in a way, kind of. But actually, I've tried it. It's quite nice. I suppose what's the appeal. So your company, it's gin, but it's very low alcohol, and then it's more about the taste than about getting drunk, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's gin. We launched rum today, actually. So clean rum's just come out, hence the Hawaiian shirt. I've just been doing a rum cocktail live, but no, it's kind of. I feel that a lot of people, everyone can relate to drinking too much, right? So it's not necessarily about sobriety or going clean, like I have. It's just, nobody loves a hangover. People drink kind of more than they should, and they know they're doing it. So it's people an alternative to exist alongside alcohol. So if you're out and you're at Twickenham, for example, and you're probably going to bash 20 drinks, and you're going to get home and you're going to feel like shit, and you've got a kid, and the following day, maybe do 10 alcoholic drinks and a few clean drinks, and maybe you'll feel a bit better for it. It's a way of not having your social life impacted or your behavior impacted.
Sure.
But you can still drink and have that kind of experience of having somebody mix you a grown-up drink so that you can socialize without the negative effects of the alcohol. But we're definitely not a sobriety brand. I just happen to be sober, but it's more for moderation, I suppose.
I think it's great. I mean, and I think in a way it couldn't have come at a better time, really, when you think about it, in lockdown. And actually, initially, a lot of people I know were all going, having a drink, have another drink. And actually, it does get a bit boring. I mean, going back, though, for me, and I'd be interested for you, I always felt in the drinking culture in rugby, it was about who could do the most stupid thing, who could drink the most, and who would end up getting sick. And that was sort of almost a badge of honour. I mean, these are the amateur days. I mean, the sort of things we did, if you got sick, you'd have to then drink your own sick. It was just, it just got ridiculous. But in a way, there was always an embarrassment about kind of like not drinking. I mean, the ones who sort of decided to have one or two were just ridiculed. And I think the world is changing massively now. And I think, whilst the sort of like low alcoholic drink is sort of favourites to over 30s who want to reduce the weight, but actually it's now becoming, it's a bit like smoking, really. Everyone just used to smoke all the time. And now it's sort of frowned upon. And actually, I think you're right. It's the culture is definitely changing to want something different. And that's what you're doing.
I think nobody's denying that a few drinks is good fun, right? It's just it's the actual feeling of being drunk is kind of very rarely pleasurable, So it's more, for me who drank too much and too often, I would really struggle to control my alcohol intake. So I would drink and drink and drink until I was just like, useless. And it's kind of like, what's the point? And it's really unhealthy. Yeah. And, when you're on rugby tour, obviously I've never played sport to the degree that you guys have, but I played rugby for USC, the University of Southern California, and we went on tour in Vegas, and we were drinking out of boots and drinking until you could barely stand. And of course it's a good time, but for me anyway, and a lot of people are able to drink and control their drinking. Just for me, I know that I often drank when I didn't really want to drink, but it was just like, I'm the life and soul, I'm the loudest, I'm the funniest, so I'm going to have a shot of tequila. And like, actually, for me, life is far more fun without it. I operate at a higher level.
Were you a good drunk? You see, there's varies of what people go to, So in a rugby team, you could have a front row forward who, when they drink, become like a big teddy bear and love a fight. And then you'll have a scrum half like me, or a winger, sort of dark destroyer. And as soon as they get a drink inside, they're so aggressive and they're just like a bomb scare wherever you go. And it's just like, everyone's so different. But what were you? Were you like you a funny, good drunk, loud, flamboyant?
I was kind of the worst kind, because I could,
oh really?
No. Like I wasn't aggressive or horrible or anything, but I could take an enormous amount of drink and just be kind of normal, or at least I would appear to be normal. But it's really bad for you. Towards the very end of my drinking, I was doing a bottle of whiskey in like, and I'd still just be sat there like watching a film, and then I'd have another whiskey, and then I'd have another whiskey, and like, it's just, what's the point then? It's so bad for you, but also your body, like, if you drink like that to a certain degree, you'll die young, like,
of course you will.
And I could handle my drink really well, which didn't help. I was never sick, or I'd never didn't find my way home, or I could always drink and then still, which is unhelpful, I find. I think, my wife, if she has 3 glasses of wine, she's fucking totals. Do you know what I mean? So she can't.
Same here.
And if she'll wake up the following morning and she'll feel anxious and down in the dumps for like 2 days. So she just doesn't drink very often. Whereas with me, I could just drink all the time.
So, I mean, I don't know. I know you love your sport and you like going to Twickenham and stuff, but it's a bit weird, isn't it, at the moment with no sport on TV and no rugby. And they're looking now that they're going to cancel the autumn internationals where we had great ones, New Zealand, Australia, I think it was Tonga and Argentina, and all the club rugby at the moment suspended until we get back to play. So that's a bit weird. Are you missing watching live rugby?
Absolutely, mate. No, I love rugby, and I think there's something very British about rugby. Obviously, us kind of creating the sport, and our teams are also great. And it's a real shame that it's cancelled. Obviously, these I'm not going to say they're unprecedented times because you hear it so often, but it's But the world's a pretty strange place at the minute. So I think in terms of sacrifice, I think we can all kind of manage it. But yeah, it's a real shame, of course. Like it's part of our culture, part of our life, isn't it? Rugby, and it's I think it's fantastic. Well, I'm not a football fan, so it's easy for me to be a big rugby fan. I've never liked football. I just can't do it.
Who's your rugby team then? As in like club team? Have you got one? I know you're going to say Harlequins.
No, I'm not. I've always quite liked the Wasps, but I think that's.
Oh, really? Oh, Lawrence
I think it's because of like London, and from a young age, I like their stripes, and I'm not. I love sport, but I'm not a die-hard fan of any particular team in anything. I love a good tennis match. I love a good rugby match. As long as the game is played well and beautifully. I obviously when England are playing, I want England to win, right? But almost. The World Cup was so disappointing, wasn't it? But but that New Zealand game was like the best thing I've ever seen.
Amazing,
So I think it's great. It's sport, isn't it? You know much better than me, but like back when everyone used to follow a football team or whatever, and you get, I can remember when I was a teenager, some of my mates would be like so down in the dumps and like upset when Arsenal lost that they like wouldn't get out of the house. It's like you're not a fucking Arsenal footballer. Who cares?
Exactly. Well, I'm gonna see. I follow my football, and I'm a Liverpool supporter, so I'm devastated at the moment. So we have to win the league by hook or by crook. All right. So I'll be devastated.
What do you think they'll do with that?
Do you know what? I don't know.
They've got to give it to you. They've got to give it to you.
Well, either that or, I mean, look, they've got return to play now in Germany, so it would be very bizarre for England to sort of the players to strike and say, I'm not doing it. I think the players who don't want to play to some extent might be one to... Yeah, don't play for Liverpool, but also might be in a team that are close to relegation. But it's interesting. This week is now Mental Health Week, and I wondered if you'd had any instances in family and friends or whatever, and what you're taking. I talk quite openly. I had terrible OCD, which is sort of like a very unusual disorder, but it's very prevalent now in rugby. The RPA are getting phone calls on a daily basis from players who are struggling, and it'd be interesting from your world of celebrities, whether how sort of important that is to talk about.
Well, for a start, I don't consider myself to be a celebrity, but I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing nowadays. But anyway, my life has changed a lot, and I kind of very rarely seek attention now. But anyway, my wife is an anxious person, so she sometimes has the occasional. I mean, she's wonderful, best friend in the world, but she occasionally has these dark kind of days, and there's no kind of helping it. And I've always been quite a thick-skinned person, and kind of nastiness and whatever, and all the social media stuff kind of drips off my back like water off a duck. It's really I can safely say that my mental health has never, I felt, always been fine and never really kind of suffered. I never really understood what anxiety was until I met Vogue. I never took it particularly seriously. I thought anxiety was a word that was thrown around by kids to get out of school type thing. Yeah. And it turns out, obviously, it's a very serious thing. And it's, I just think talking about it openly can be helpful. If I'm going to share my actual opinion, is that I think talking about it in a positive way is helpful. I think, taking to social media if you're very followed or you are an actual celebrity, and you're just kind of expressing weakness, but in a not positive way. If you're just constantly just moaning about
sure,
life, how hard life is, it's hard to see how that's helpful to anyone. Like some people are just very negative all the time about their experiences with mental health. I personally would like to see people in positions of influence be a bit more positive about what you can do to help others, instead of just essentially saying, "Oh, I'm really famous and I'm down in the dumps all the time as well." It's like, try and be positive. No?
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and I think half the problem is interesting that Nick Easter, who can't get on the line because his kid's on Wi-Fi, he's struggling to get on, but he was absolutely fine during his rugby career. I really struggled, and I think it's the different personalities. It doesn't matter whether you are inmate in Chelsea or you're a model or you're a sportsman or you're a binman. You know, it affects people very differently, and I think you're right. I think the harder role that anyone has to play is the role you have to play, and certainly for my wife, trying to understand, well, what the hell's going on with this guy. And then I think when I was growing up, even when I was playing at the early age when I wasn't affected by mental health, it was later in my career, you know, I always thought, I was kind of like, well, man up, you know, what's wrong with you? Just get over it. And
that's
I think
very
that's
rugby as well, isn't it?
Yeah, of course,
I mean, I'm not saying at all that I had a difficult childhood, because obviously I didn't. I had a family of very close, and I had a wonderful upbringing. But there was definitely an element of that. If I was sad or upset about something, it was like, oh, stop whinging, stop whinging, you know. And like in a kind of like playful way, to the point where now I whinge about absolutely nothing ever, you know. And it's kind of like, and now if somebody's whinging, I'm just like, why is he whinging? You know. So like for me, I don't know. It's a tricky one. I don't think social media helps at all. I think social media is awful and terrible, actually. I think it's a real danger to society and youth, personally. I think if you have a business that you're looking to promote, then it's great. If you're looking to promote yourself in a way, fine. It's kind of like, I just think it's very hard to get any sense of reality out of social media, and people are kind of, well, actually nobody's unkind to me, because I think it's a known thing that I don't really care about it. I don't spend much time on it, but some people can be really unkind. Like people are unkind to my wife, who's kind of pregnant, who's 7 months pregnant, and you know, she's constantly being battered about being fat or whatever. It's just like, I don't understand why anyone would bother. So we did a podcast today, my wife and I, and we were talking about accessibility in social media, and how, you know, I haven't given my phone number to you yet. You're contacting me and messaging me. It's like, I don't fucking know who you are, mate. It's like, I'd rather you didn't talk to me. But some people, I guess, can take it and leave it, and some get affected by it. It's like Daily Mail comments, you know. Even if you've done 5 minutes of television, you know, you're putting yourself up to just being an absolute sitting duck. Like, I will always be a pompous, rich, lazy kid who lives off his dad, always, for the rest of my life. And it's like, that's just not true.
But the thing is, though, you are sort of, I think you're hardened enough to sort of reason it and sort of get it right in your mind and contextualize everything and go, I don't care that you think that. But there are people, I think, who for one reason or another, you know, who have struggled in their life, who don't have those strengths that you obviously do have. I mean, you know, if someone puts something nasty on me online, I'm a bit like, I don't give a shit. But I can imagine if someone did about my wife, and she, you know, I'd get up, but she'd be really upset. So I think people gradually work out their barriers, which you obviously have, and which is fantastic. But I don't think everyone's as strong as yourself, you know. And that's something to consider.
I think it's just important to remember kind of who matters to you and whose opinions are important to you. Like, how many people do you love, right? And like, actually ask yourself, right, how many people would I step in front of a bus for? You know, and there's probably, like, I don't know, your immediate family, and then maybe in my case 3 people. You know, it's something like that. So it's like, do you like the way I said immediate family? Cousins. No. So it's like, so there's that, and then it's kind of like, well, their opinions matter. And then you've got your kind of friend group, and then you've got people who you've never met and will never know, and their opinions really shouldn't matter, you know, about you and your life, and whether or not you're a good dad, or whether or not you're funny, or whether or not you're rich, or it doesn't fucking matter, mate.
No, exactly.
It's just I don't, you know.
But the interesting thing is, you look really well at the moment, okay? And I'll tell you why you look really well at the moment. Okay, you've got clean living and everything. You've cut your hair. You look great. you've got one child. You've got another one on the way, which I believe is that right?
Little
Now,
girl,
look, oh, that's fantastic. Now, I've got 3 boys. Okay, so I'm gonna contact you again in about 2-3 years' time when you've got 3 kids, and let's see how you look then. All right?
Yeah. No, I'll be battered. I'll have those big raccoon eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
But
listen,
it's great, and that's the main positive, isn't it? To take out of lockdown,
Yeah.
you get to spend more time with your family. I
Which
happen
is
to quite
great.
like my wife, so that's.
Oh well, that's good. Well, good luck with the impending second one, and I hope it goes well. And thanks for being open and honest. We loved you on the show. You are our outside centre. So thanks very much, mate.
Just don't send anyone good my way, yeah? All good.
All right, okay.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers,
Thank you.
Cheers,
Thanks for being
bye.
a gent. Thank you. Cheers.
See you. Bye.
Bye.